I'm Corbett Wall with USDA Livestock and Grain Market News, here with your feeder and stocker cattle market summary for the week ending December the 16th. We had feeder cattle. Those cattle going into the feedlot weighing over 700 pounds, selling steady to $2 lower. Not too many yearlings left out there, as we've been saying for the last several weeks. Mostly these are long calves. A lot of them been heavily supplemented. And but in the direct sales and in the sale barns where they showed up, mostly steady to $2 lower. Still overwhelmingly the movement in the cattle marketing is calves, and calf prices were very uneven this week all across the country, kind of depending geographically where they were at. Steers and heifers had different trends, different weights had different trends, different days of the week had different trends. But we're all winding down here. This will be the last full week of cattle marketing here, as most all your sale barns, especially in the southeast, but most all across the country, your sale barns will definitely be running on reduced schedules, and a lot of them will be completely closed until next year. So that could be blamed for the stronger market in some places and the weaker market in some places, as those order buyers were wrapping up their orders and getting their loads squared up and getting them sent out. Sometimes that made them push a little more, and in some places made them back off a little bit. But down in the southeast, where they will be absolutely shut down, be hardly any cattle sold at all in the whole southeastern region. Those cattle sold from $3 higher to $3 lower, and really your earlier in the week was a little bit stronger, and the bulk of those cattle do sell earlier in the week, so overall the market might have been a pinch stronger, but then later in the week it was about $3 lower. Now across in the plains in the Midwest, now not so many of the lighter calves, but those middleweight calves weighing 4.5 to 6.5, which is the bulk of the sales, those calves were $3 to $5 lower across the central parts of the United States, up through the plains in the Midwest. Did have some strength noted out in the mountain states, but just on a couple of auctions there. But they had kind of spring-like thunderstorms coming through, and quite a bit of rain falling, and the temperatures were not bad. But when you got cold weather coming and those cattle get soaked to the bone, and the preconditioned lots, the feed lots, facilities where people are trying to put these cattle together are sloppy now. Some of these places, especially in the southern plains, it's been a long time since they've had to deal in any mud, and they forgot how much they hate it. But it's muddy and wet all over, and they just didn't want too many more of those calves. They got a lot of sick calves that they're having trouble straightening out, and people just kind of winding down, pulling back towards the end of the year here in the holidays, and those calves were by far predominantly lower. Still got the best demand on those little peewee calves, weighing under 450, especially your 3-weight calves there. But even them up through the central parts of the country, those little things tend to look like drowned rats whenever they get soaked, and were not too attractive coming through the sale barns this week, and it affected the market on them. But your steer and heifer spread did narrow some, and some of the buyers are just backing off some of those most popular classes of cattle, because they're just so high, and especially when they're guys that are getting them have started losing some of those cattle. You start realizing when the calf costs $850, and every time one of them falls over, it hurts quite a bit. So they're starting to try to find some spots, some holes in the market, heifers, off weights, different things to go in there. They still want those cattle. They're trying to get cattle put together. They're wanting to buy next spring's stocker cattle, really, because everybody thinks it's going to be so short, and they will be short and probably higher than they are right now. And the calves and the lighter cattle that are available in the spring are always plainer than the ones we have in the fall. But we did see some narrowing of the steer and heifer spread. Just a few weeks ago, we saw the Southern Plains markets, feeder cattle markets that are near the Southern Plains feedlots, getting right up there, almost as high as the prices in the Northern Plains. And Northern Plains cattle always bring more money. That's just the way it is. And but we did see the South just narrow that gap almost to nothing, and we saw some of our high sales that we like to talk about down in the southern part of Kansas and in Texas Panhandle. But boy, this week you sure saw that widen out again as the north cattle started selling, dollars and dollars higher than similar weights and classes of cattle in the southern plains, because the northern plains has those farmer feeders coming into the market, and the south just doesn't have those, and it's too much freight to get them where they're going. So, but the farmer feeders are coming in right here at the end of the year, spending up some of that money they're going to have to pay taxes on, and really adding a nice premium to those cattle up in the north. Fort Pierce, South Dakota, there last Friday had a load of thin 529-pound steers bring $1.83, and those are big prices there. This week's fat market is starting out depressing here. It's late Friday afternoon, and some of those Kansas feedlots and mostly pooled marketing there sold those cattle $2 lower at $1.18. Still had a lot of people that was priced in the 20s there, but sure not going to get it this week, at least not in the southern plains. Really hasn't took effect yet in Nebraska yet, but the market's going to be steady to lower everywhere. Cattle on feed report this week. On feed totals 104%. That was just a little bit heavier than what the estimated guess was. Placements was where the big bearish factor come in. Cattle placed on feed during November, 104.1%, and the average guess was less than 100%. So that is a bearish factor on the feeder cattle market. Fat cattle marketings were right in there close to what they thought at just under 100%, where the average guess was the top of 98%. This week did note that U.S. imports, beef coming into this country, beef products is down 12% over last year. And this will be the first year in about 40 years that the U.S. is a net beef exporter. And that might come as a surprise to a lot of people. It kind of did me, but first time in 40 years that we've sent out more beef products than we pulled in. This week's regional weighted averages in north central states, 800 to 900 pound steers cost you $138.89 compared to $139.78 last week, $116.11 a year ago. Down in the south central states, 700 to 800 pound steer, $142.69 compared to $143.43 last week and $118.23 a year ago. And the southeastern market, 600 to 700 pound steer this week, $132.32 compared to $134.03 last week and $110.30 a year ago. All of us here at Federal State Market News Service want to wish all of you a very Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. We will not have a summary or video next week. We will have one there at the very tail end of the year, so we're going to take 1 week off and kind of pull up that holiday marketings. But for more market information, check out our website, marketnews.usda.gov. From the Regional Market News Office in St. Joe, Missouri, we'll talk to you in 2 weeks.